Just enough to remind me why I don't watch it. Oh, this is already funny. Just the headline. The list of moves and actions that are now banned from AEW or need to be approved by the company.
Maybe that's why Nash is pissed off, because he went for Brock and Austin and not try to duplicate him.
Well, it'd be easier to duplicate him. You only have to learn 5 moves.
Like you said, and we've all been saying, Tony Khan, you need a hierarchy, and he gets one, and then we make fun of it.
Because he's sitting back there talking about the Brock match, and it's finally we had a wrestling match. Finally, we got 2 guys telling a story. They weren't outside in the ring the whole time. One of them
was he not watching the same match as we were?
Yeah, those games, man, I would say, like, for me, like, the best ones, I would say, are, like, the ones where they try to get a certain, like, time.
This is my entire IT team right here on screen. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Give me a second. I'm doing this a little bit differently than usual. I thought I had this all set and ready to go. There we go. What a difference a background makes. Welcome to the Nation Network. Meals. Maybe we should just shut down and start all over again. Welcome to the Nation Network. I am your host, Vince McSham, and this is WrestleChat. As you can tell, my screen looks a little different today because I'm flying solo. Well, not entirely solo. I got all of you out there. So it's going to be us carrying the load tonight. Jay's got other things going on. We're going to forgive him for that. Maybe. I don't know. We'll think about it. Yeah, probably. Let me get stuff situated. So we're doing this on OBS instead of StreamYard tonight. So there'll be no StreamYard logo floating around up there. Aw. There we go. So, what do you want to talk about? We got some stuff going on. Oh, it's always stuff in wrestling. There's drama, and the good thing about it is it kind of takes you away from the real world drama for a little bit, and God knows I need as much of that as I can get. I'll take it as it comes, as the old man says. Let's see. What else we got going here? Boom, boom, boom. Nothing's happening here. Why is nothing happening here? Oh, I know why. You're out of order, and you're out of order. The whole damn thing is out of order. I'm just having issues. I had this thing set up for just such an emergency, but then I've never tested it until now, so together. Doesn't make the bit of sense. It's on the top filter. Close that. I'm going to try one more time. I don't know. You might be hearing the sound effect, but I can't get the picture of the clown to pop up, which is weird. I'll have to look into that later. We got Miracle X in the house. Hoopa. Slow ahead if you please. And his dirty Triple X mind. D-Train. Hold on, we got to do that right. D-Train. Oh, is in the house. My voice cracking. It's a long day. I got to tell you, it's been a long day. They did some stupid award ceremony today, and we all had to go into the city, and food was good anyway, but I hate award ceremony. Absolutely hate them. Purist in the house, welcome aboard, and Blazed Radio. It's in the house. McCoy, if I'd known you'd been around, I would have gone on to StreamYard and dragged you in with me. Okay, well, let's jump in. I got my notes, and we're going to check on a bunch of different stuff. I don't know if I want to do it in the order I have it written down in necessarily or not. I think I'm going to start off with the subject of Bill Goldberg. You all remember Bill Goldberg. Yeah. He was recently interviewed on a radio station and asked about his interactions when it comes to Tony Khan and the possibility of going to AEW. And man, did he come out clean. So putting it into the closest thing to accurate, I don't have the actual quote, but I've heard it a couple of times. And the gist of it is, we talked, I thought about it, and if there was a way that he referred to them as a cheesy company, and if there was a way that I could work for them and still look at myself in the mirror the next day, I would have, but I'll never work for them. Damn. I mean, holy schmolies, because we all know Bill Goldberg likes a payday, and he'd have had a payday. But he just went ham on Tony. He took Tony to town, man. You got a shit product. I don't want my name associated with it. Boom. And I guess that's probably the right order to be attacking this in, because now let's talk about the shit product for just a moment. So their pay-per-view, they go and have a decent pay-per-view, and then they screw it up by bringing Jungle Dick back in, right? So now you got Jungle Dick back in. The guy who is the reason your ratings are in the toilet at record numbers, because you had a draw, and you let this dweeb of a piece of shit separate him from your company. You put his worthless ass, who's never going to draw a single ticket, and you gave up CM Punk. Great business decision, Tony. Great business decision. Bravo. Bravo. So anyway, not only that, but now you're elevating him or trying to elevate him. I get it. I heard the fans singing the song and all that. Enjoy the moment. He is not going to bump a rating point at all. The 400 to 600,000 that are still watching the program, depending what night of the week we're talking about, they'll pop for him. But that number keeps going down each and every week. We're going to get numbers in a minute. On the last show, I don't have obviously numbers for anything as of yesterday, but they thought it would be a great idea to have him come out and attack Tony Khan. Here's one of many differences between Tony Khan and Vince McMahon, between Tony Khan and Triple H, between Tony Khan and anybody who's fucking wrestling at all. Tony Khan is an idiot. The motherfucker couldn't even sell a punch. In all honesty, Jungle Boy should have waylaid him in the stomach, man, and just made him double over. Tony takes the worst. I mean, he tried taking a bump, and it was horrible. Then he lays flat, and it's like 3 seconds goes by, and then he grabs his stomach and starts writhing in pain. I'm like, dude, come on. It's got to be serious. But how can you possibly? I thought I had the video clip handy. Dang it. I do not. I apologize for that. But I could not believe for a second that that was the best he could do. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be so surprised because that's kind of Tony. So he terribly sells this thing. Then he starts writhing around a few seconds later. I guess it was a delayed effect. And then all of a sudden, the Young Bucks or the not-so-Young Bucks come storming into the ring. And, what the fuck are you doing? You can't do that. And then they try to help Tony up by each arm. So now you kind of see where this is going. And Okaida, or whatever his name is, Oshika, or I don't know, the guy they spent a lot of money on that doesn't want to do a lot of grinding. Yeah, they take out Tony. Been there, done that, seen this all before. And Tony is not 1/10 of the people that did it before him. He's never going to be able to pull it off. It was you're just digging a deeper hole each and every week, with no exceptions that I can see. Oh, Lord. I'm going to try and keep up with the chat here. It's a little bit more challenging doing it this way than the other, but at least I can kind of see everything at once this way, so maybe it's not as bad. Tony fucking Khan, says Neil Hooper. Goldberg. Yes. Big ups to you. Dwight's in the house. Yeah, I'm gonna get to Jesse in a minute here. It's in the title, man. We got you covered. Best sell ever, yeah. Best sell never. I mean, I've never seen one that bad. Oh yeah, then his dad gets in the ring, and his dad sold better than he did. I'll say that. And it was an interesting touch to do that. I mean, in all honesty, has his dad ever been to an AEW show on a regular basis? And I love the fact that they're moving to the daily, whatever the hell, Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium, where you can only sit about COVID numbers of, 3,000 maximum, maybe? Which is smart, because that's all they're selling anyway, with the exception of their pay-per-views. But it still felt like a small crowd. I mean, there were some COVID vibes in the air, so to speak. Jamon Scott, man, what's up with you, and how you doing, man? Tony Sell was pathetic. It was terrible. Everything about the angle was bad. The sell was bad. The show just isn't good. I'm sorry, man. I try. I try to give them chances here and there. I watched the Daniel Bryanson match with Ospreay. I gave it about 15, 20 minutes, and I'm not going to say it was bad, but it wasn't something that would want me to stick around for another 15 or 20 minutes, and then I kind of fast-forwarded to the last 5 minutes, and it to me, it's a spot fest. That's all it really is. And I'm not talking about spots like coming off the top rope and, it's just, it's indie-rific. It really is, and that's not my style. So some people like that shit. Go for it. I like wrestling. And I don't feel like I watched that program for more than 10 minutes, and it's like I don't see any wrestling. That's a me thing, so. Oh, Vince McMahon never took a good stunner. Never once. Show me one time where he took a good stunner. That was fucking awful. But the first one was the worst. No, I take it back. The first one and the last one, when Stone Cold got him at WrestleMania a couple of years ago. They were on par. And that was, 25 years apart? So Vince didn't get any better in 25 years, which you would expect that with age, but that just says 25 years earlier he was taking bumps like a 68 to 74-year-old. Yeah, no, whoever thought that was a good idea, and I guess we already know who thought it was a good idea, was wrong. They were wrong. I can admit it. Why can't they? I guess we're going to wait for the ratings numbers to prove. We're going to get into some ratings. Let's do that now. Quarter hours. We're talking about Raw from Monday, April 22nd. I still, like I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go. Before we do the quarter hours, let's do the overalls. Because that I have. If I can get it to populate. The hell? Why has everything got to be difficult? There it goes. Very slow today. All right, we're... So going back to last Wednesday, and we'll catch up. So Dynamite last Wednesday did 762,000. I'm pretty sure we broke that one down previously. SmackDown last Friday, 6 days ago, pulled a 2.33. So that's 2,333,000 people. Here's where it gets entertaining. Rampage and Collision, respectively, 397. Now, that's for a Rampage, which starts at 10 p.m. on Saturday, and TNT having Collision at 8 p.m. So they started the night from 8 to 10 at a 461 overall. And then they dropped in that last hour to 397,000. So some almost 70,000 people said, I've seen enough. Thanks, bye. Last Monday's Raw, not as good as the one before. The one before, of course, was after Mania, and we had 1.8 million on that. And this past Monday night was 1.5, no, we'll call it 1.6. It was 1.597. So 1.6, they lost 200,000. And that's the one we're going to be breaking down here momentarily. NXT pulled a 661, which is not bad. It's actually up almost 40,000 from the week before. And AEW Dynamite, which was on Wednesday. Damn. 683. Do I not have the quarter hours for that? Wait a minute. We got to see. I should have the quarter hours for that if it's up here. Dynamite, here we go. Hold that phone a minute. Hold that phone a minute. Jump into this and see what I can pull out. I'm not seeing the quarter hours. I'm seeing a lot of other hours. Hold on. I wonder why that is. It should be there. But 683 is not a good number. I really want to see what happened with the returns and things like that. Dynamite on the 24th. It doesn't have the quarter hours yet. That's odd. I would think if they have the one, they would have the others, but apparently not. Well, let's break it down as best we can with what we do have then from our friends over at WrestleNomics. So in the 18 to 49 range, wait a minute, maybe I'm finding it here. No? Guess not. So versus the week's prior episode, they're down 10%. This past episode versus the 4 weeks prior, down 11%. In the 18 to 49 age category, this week's episode against last week, down 12%. And this week versus 4 weeks prior, down 10%. And that's, again, the 18 to 49 category. Viewer counts for this week's episode with the difference versus the median of the last 4 non-preemptive episodes. So basically, this week's versus the last 4. If I'm reading this correctly, it looks like they're overall down somewhere in the neighborhood of 15%. And everything else here is kind of blip charts and stuff, but it doesn't break us down in the quarter hours, unfortunately. That's what I like watching those, because they will tell you what was airing, and then you can really get a vibe for what people were sticking into and what people were bailing out on. And it's weird that because Monday Night Raw was a few days earlier, so I guess that makes sense. So let's talk about Monday Night Raw then. Screw it. Monday Night Raw, who does not get the benefit of a Big Bang Theory bump to start the night off, starts the night off with a 1.77, so we'll call it a 1.8, so almost 2 million. They got 1.8 million people watching at the start of the show when Michael Cole, Pat McAfee do their promo. Rhea Ripley recap was shown. Jey Uso, Damian Priest, live promo / angle. No commercial ads, and they pull a 1.77. That's 8 to 8:15. 8:15 to 8:30, we have an ad. We have the King of the Ring video package. We have the Awesome Truth versus DIY, which is actually a decent match. There were 2 breaks through it. That'll help. And they dropped from the 1.77 to 1.54. And that's approximately a 13% drop. A little disappointed in that. I thought it was a good match. I would think people would have stuck around for that a little bit more, but they didn't at the moment. Going to the next break from 8:30 to 8:45. Awesome Truth and DIY continues and concludes. We have Judgment Day with Santos Escobar backstage, along with the Gunther promo, which I found extraordinarily boring. That did go up, though, from the 1.54 to 1.62. So some people tuned in for that part. 8:45 to 9 o'clock, Gunther's still talking. The New Day live promo takes place. There's an ad break, another New Day versus Imperium match, which that didn't turn out well for Imperium. Now, did it? They went from the 1.6 to 1.5, so most people didn't stick around. They lost about 75,000 people for that. Then 9 o'clock to 9:15, we've got the New Day with it going up against Imperium. Still going. Geez, how long did that match last? And then the Andrade backstage promo, and that went up slightly by 73,000 to 1.573. 9:15 to 9:30, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus live promo. Yeah, didn't think that was a great spot myself, but it went up. Went up to 1.610, which means they gained approximately 30,000 people. 9:30 to 9:45, Shinsuke Nakamura against Sheamus. Sami Zayn, Chad Gable recap. Zayn and Bronson Reed backstage angle. If Sami going to just keep getting his ass kicked, I don't know what. I just don't get it. Why'd you put the belt on to begin with? Anyway, it went up from the 1.610 to 1.7 went up 100,000. 100,000. Good jump. That brings us to 9:45 to 10 o'clock ad break. Gable with his live promo where he basically calls his team out. Ricochet, Dominic Mysterio with his broken arm. Liv Morgan backstage angle and another ad break. These ad breaks will add up and kick your ass. People turn channels on ad breaks. 1.7 was what we started that quarter hour with. It went down to 1.669. Nia Jax, this ought to be a doozy. Oh, it is. Nia Jax backstage promo. JD McDonough and Santos Escobar versus Andrade and Ricochet. That was a 10 o'clock to 10:15 hour if I didn't mention it. Nia Jax, what do you think she did? Bump the rating? Think she bumped the rating? Hell no. We went from a 1.669, 1,669,000 viewers to 1,484,000 viewers. That's 200,000 practically, 180,000. 180,000 viewers said, I ain't listening to this fat bitch. Get her off TV. Come on. Man, if she wasn't related to Dwayne Johnson. 10:15 to 10:30, McDonough and Escobar continue the match with Andrade and Ricochet. The post-match with Mysterio, Priest, another ad break, Zoe Stark. The video for the Women's World Title Battle Royal, because that's how you replace a dominant world champion for a title that was elevated. You just throw everybody in a Battle Royal and whoever's still standing. Great. 2 ad breaks during this run here, and it did bump up a little bit after Nia Jax squashed it. That's what she does, right? She squashes things. Well, she does it to the ratings, too. So we went from the Nia Jax 1,484,000 to 1,566,000. So they got some of it back. They went up 6%. Nia Jax, by the way, drop of 11%. Nicely done. We go to the 10:30 to 10:45. We got the Women's World Title Battle Royal continuing with another ad break, and it dropped 60,000 to 1,506,000, down 4%. And then 10:45 to 11 o'clock for the go home and title crowning moment. With one ad break, it went up 104,000, a 7% increase for a final of 1,610,000. And that's how they achieved the overall. Nia Jax is poison. That's all there is to it. There's nothing she does for a wrestling promotion that's going to help it. So why is she there? That's rhetorical. We already know why she's there. We know how she has a job. So that's the world of Monday Night Raw. We'll get the Dynamite ratings probably tomorrow. In the past, they've had them the next day. I'm not sure why it's hit and miss with that, but as time goes by, maybe we'll figure this out. Jesse the Body Ventura was on a panel which included his son, Tyrell. So I'm not sure whose podcast it is or anything, but it was kind of a StreamYard-looking thing with four corners going, and they talked about the state of the art of the WWE with the Vince scandal, and he talks in detail about what happened. And this is the most detailed story I had heard from him regarding the whole incident with unionization and how it kind of led to him being out the door for a little bit and why he was brought back in. And the way he tells the story is it was right before WrestleMania 2. And when I say right before, we're talking about maybe a week or two. So all promotion is in full gear, and he had a moment in the locker room, and he's got the whole Jesse Rah speech. If you've ever heard this guy when he was running for governor, he can put it on when he wants to. And he told them, this is our opportunity right now. If we stick together, we can make this happen right now. You have the world press around us. We can go out there and say, if we can't get a union representative in here to talk to us, which is a legal issue, legally you have to allow that if enough people come together and say we want to be unionized. That's why a lot of places that aren't unionized make sure they squash that talk quickly. That's why Zelina Vega got her ass kicked for a little while. So the minute they get the rumblings, while the guys all loved what Jesse was saying, it's like you'll get retirement, you'll get health benefits, you'll get the stuff you're working for, which I agree, they should be getting this stuff. And the guys all said, listen, we got to get Hogan or it won't work. He says, no, we don't. We don't need Hogan. We only need Bundy. That's who he's fighting. If Bundy walks, there goes your main event. Now, I'm of the opinion you didn't even need Bundy. You get 70% of the WrestleMania roster to walk, and then it's still going to be a shit show. Unless Bundy and Hogan are going to put on an hour Matt Classic, which I don't think so. Anyway, he left the ball there, walked away. The rest is kind of history. Vince called him up and said, what the hell are you doing? And he told him, he says, Vince, we work for our money. We should be getting certain things that we're not getting right now. And Jesse wanted to go film Predator. Vince said no. He said, well, then I'm leaving. And he went and filmed Predator. And then he came back, and Vince took him back. And the reason he took him back, and I love this, he says, Vince, you don't have to worry about me with union talk ever again. He's like, why? I'm in the union. He got his SAG card for being in the movie, Screen Actors Guild. So I've got my insurance. I got retirement. I got a 401k. If these assholes don't want to stand up for their own rights, fuck them. I don't care. Vince brought him back in because he realized Jesse's not a threat anymore because he got what he wanted. That was a golden... I asked myself, what would the world of wrestling be like if it were unionized? You'd have a lot of last-minute changes to pay-per-views. Because, as we all know, if you don't work, you don't get paid. I am sure if it was unionized, there would be some form of guaranteed payment. So that if I got injured a week before Mania, like Cody with his pec, that I wouldn't have to wrestle the match, and I'd still get that payout. It would be a mess. It would be a mess, but at the same time, we're talking about human beings and their lives. So, not so sure about how that would have turned out. Be interesting. Be interesting to go back in history and tweak it a little bit and get people to listen, and all of a sudden they do it, and then we see what happens 30 years later. Monday Night Wars would have looked a whole lot different. Oh, my goodness. What else do we got here? I'm trying to keep up with the chat as best I can as well. No, it did get to Hogan because they tried getting Hogan on board. Jesse said, we don't need Hogan, we need Bundy, and they didn't go for that. So somebody blabbed to Hogan, and Hogan, he has his guarantee money. He knows he's the number one guy, and that if he got hurt, Vince is going to take care of him. So none of that other shit would affect Hogan. But yeah, Hogan was the one that did the squealing. He was right. If you'd have gone to Bundy, and now who knows if Bundy would have played the game or not, but you had a much better chance going that route than you did going with Hogan. What happened to my notes? There they are. In the chat right now, how many of you guys have gone out and bought a bottle of Prime? Logan's favorite energy drink. Because if you have, and you haven't opened it yet, just throw it in the trash. A lot of problems coming out with Prime. Prime has 4 times the caffeine of a Coke. 200 milligrams. I'm not a scientist, but I just know that's a lot of milligrams. And here's where it got interesting in this report that I was watching. It has this ingredient referred to as PFAs, which are forever chemicals. In other words, it's stuff that goes into your body that doesn't go anywhere because it has no idea what to do with it. That's bad. All of our food practically nowadays has some form or another of a PFA, and that's why people are, getting cancer in record numbers and things like that because of the shit we're putting inside of us. But this has 3 times the toxic synthetic chemicals of any other energy drink on the market. And these particular things that are in there are not even shown on the label. And the FDA has approved it. How about that? The same FDA that approved the Pfizer jab. So, I wouldn't have bought that shit anyway, but don't be surprised if it's all of a sudden not featured on the ring aprons or the ring mats or the little drink stations at the next pay-per-view. It sounds like that's about to come down on them a little bit. They're going to be maybe having to do some major damage control. We'll see how big this story gets, but you heard it here. Back to AEW for a moment. Somebody was talking about this on one of the other channels, and I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. One of the things they showed was the face-off between, and this is why I wanted to see the quarter hours, the face-off between Mercedes and Willow, which I watched that, and I actually was better with it than most everybody in the comment section was. Not that I thought it was good, but it was a slightly unique take on an old classic where, if you haven't seen it, Mercedes basically goes face-to-face with Willow while Statlander is standing next to Willow, and back and forth, and Mercedes basically tells her, I'm going to kick your ass and take your title, and turns away and starts to walk away. Statlander reaches over and grabs her by the arm as if, don't you dare turn your back, Grabs her arm and then immediately releases. So, of course, Sasha turns around and thinks Willow did it and smacks her upside the face. Most of the fans really hated it. The ones that were commenting on it hated it. I didn't hate it. But the question came out, AEW from day one, wins and losses matter here. Now, again, we all know I don't watch it. But I know some of you out there, at least, watch it. Do they still do the win-loss record when people come to the ring? I honestly don't know. So, when Jericho is walking down the aisle, does it show how many wins and losses he has? Or did they just scrap that whole idea? He's leaving me. McCoy. Just when I needed you most. She's not a promo queen. She never has been. Well, again, I don't know. Is Willow supposed to be a heel? She's with Statlander. I presume they're baby faces, but what do I know, right? Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad, but man, they were getting roasted in the comment section. And again, I didn't think it was good either. All right, well, I don't know. Nobody's posted anything here to educate me, but I don't know if they're still doing the win-loss record thing, but that used to be their calling card, that win and losses is going to matter here, and so much so that they showed them on the way to the ring. And all of a sudden, the one who has had 0 matches ever in the company gets a free ride to the World Championship match. Huh. I mean, even if you didn't boast wins and losses, who the fuck does that? They brought Cody in. He didn't go right after Roman. He had a thing with Seth first. You don't just go straight to the... It's Tony with his little playground booking. Good point. I don't even pay attention, he says. Yeah, Miracle X, I agree. I mean, and it's not, I know it'll come, oh, it's because you hate AEW. And again, I don't hate AEW, I hate Tony Khan. There's a difference. Get rid of him and put somebody in there that's competent, and I'll probably watch the show again. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. And hell, the show might not even be around that long if they don't get rid of him, because, again, he has the money to pump in, but the networks don't. It's like, unless he's going to make up for the lost ad revenue. All right. Last subject that I got to cover tonight is we're going to get back to what's been happening in the world of WWE 2K. As we covered a couple of days ago, one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name in the creation end of what we do around here with this game. What's the status? Got what we reported as, everybody did, including him, as a lifetime ban. I'm going to get into that in just a moment. He did hit me up earlier today if I wanted him on, but I feel like we've already kind of covered everything, and he's already interviewed on other channels where I don't have anything to add to that. The questions have been asked. He's answered them. I just don't see a logic in doing it at this point, and it is what it is. But that said, somebody named Herb Scribner, who is with the Washington Post in the entertainment aspect of that publication, posted the following. Says that 2K confirmed to me that the WWE 2K24 creator, What's the Status, has received an indefinite ban over terms of service violations. Indefinite is a different word than lifetime. So they could decide we're going to let you cool off for 6 months and then allow you back. They could, but that indefinite is a whole different word. Not sure. I mean, again, he spoke directly to 2K. There has been a lot of pushback, but I look at it this way. Does it matter? At the end of the day, does it matter? So let's say 2K gives him a 3-month ban. Just making up a number. 3 months from now, he's back gone. What? What's he going to do? He can't post his creations because he just got banned. So guess what? You're not going to put any more content out that's hacked. That's all he does, and he admits it. So might as well let him back on because you've pretty much cut his balls off. He can't produce what he produces. That said, he's no longer alone, and this is kind of what I was anticipating. The dominoes are falling. Marty M., which many of you know, creates arenas, makes really cool arenas. Unlike what Status did, where he's going out there and, taking female wrestlers and letting them wrestle men and letting them bleed and all that kind of stuff. or changing tattoos on the actual in-game models. All this guy was doing was taking some of these walls and or Titantrons and reallocating them so that they made different looking arenas from different sides. So he would put these screens where they don't belong to make it look like a smaller arena, and then you can put a graphic on there in the background and make them look really cool, like a really good ECW arena, for example. And he had several up that were good. We used one here on the channel not that long ago, the Jailhouse match with the Big Boss Man and Danny Davis. That was one of his. Do they always work? Right now, they're clunky as hell sometimes, but who cared? I mean, you could still use it. So, yeah, he got whacked. He got whacked. Now, I don't know that he got a lifetime ban, but he got whacked. All his stuff is gone. He's definitely chilling. For how long? Don't know that part yet. But this is what I was saying. I says, it isn't going to end with one person. And Status has been so vocal about, well, if you do it to me, you have to do it to everybody, which rubs me the wrong way. Because now, because you can't do it anymore, you're targeting the entire community that nobody can get any content out. I do agree with the argument, and it's hard to even have it in an argument at this point, in that there's a lot of pornographic stuff in community creations that we showed yesterday. Wasn't hard to find at all. And for the number of different people who have gone out and shown this material on their streams, I find it hard to believe that 2K is unaware of it. So I would be targeting that long before I would be worried about content creators who are, yeah, they're messing with your game, and you got a right to not want that to happen, but they're not giving anyone an unfair advantage. They're not doing anything that's going to socially attack 13-year-old kids. According to one thing I heard, is some creator put like a undressed minor, 13-year-old person or something like that. I didn't see that one myself, but and how would you know a created wrestler supposed that? All that outside of the world for me, I can't even. But the more problems they're having with community creations, the more I think we're going to find a whole new world of community creations come 25. If they were to get rid of it, it would be suicide. Nobody's going to get the game. Nobody's going to get the game. No one is buying this game for the main roster. And the fact is, what works for us is the fact that we do have creators like Status, like Marty M, and plenty of others that are able to bring stuff to us that should be in the game. You know, realistically, this comes down to 2K. They should be updating Karrion Kross so he looks accurate. If Status can do it, why can't they? They should be updating Rhea Ripley with longer dark hair. It's not that hard. They should be able to add Rock's tattoo and give him a final boss attire. There's no reason they can't. If you can get CM Punk in the game in another 2 weeks, and he joined back not that long ago. What was it, a couple months now? 3 months ago? That's short order. I mean, he joined the WWE maybe 2 months before the game's launch, which is record-setting time to get someone in a game for them, and they did it. Why? Because you had the intellectual property already there. You had past scans that you could rely on, and if you want to do it bad enough, you can make it happen. I honestly think just changing out somebody's hair is not going to take nearly the effort. I'm no expert, but I talk to people that know more about it than I do. Yeah, 2K, you're right, McCoy. They'll always have the right to bring him back. It's their stuff. But here's the trick, though. I'm trying to be careful about this because this was told to me in confidence. Someone I know knows 2K might not have had anything to do with it. It might have come from a different source telling 2K, stop this and stop it now. So, if that's the case, then 2K really doesn't have the ability. But according to the reporter, it's an indefinite suspension. So we'll presume 2K's representative used that word, because reporters are normally good at recording those conversations so that they get quoted accurately and they don't get sued. But 2K could have just slipped and used that word by accident when that wasn't necessarily the one they had in mind. Hard to say. I don't know. But we'll all find out. You know, D-Train, a lot of people have been suggesting similar things. That there should be a mod option to work with 2K, like an after-the-launch mod team that works hand-in-hand with 2K to make sure they're okay with it, and maybe it filters through 2K, and then they allow it to community creations. Obviously, the solution is definitely better to work with than to work against, because, again, what these legitimate guys are doing at the end of the day is to help. It's to help make something better. It's to keep the fun in the game going so that we continue playing it. I bought many games over the many years, and most of them have something in common. Once I've achieved a certain level of the game, I put it away for a while, and maybe a long while. But with these games, I play it for the full year because it's always fresh. The minute I get bored with something, you know, last year, first 3 months, I was banging out UPW. Then I felt like I'm done with UPW. Whoop. Bring in a whole new roster because we got people out there that make such great content that you can do that. So here's everybody waiting for the 15th to get CM Punk and the ECW pack, when in reality, you could have it today if you really want to, because there's creators that have made everyone that's going to be in the pack, and then you can delete them later when the pack comes out if you want to. But that's my whole point. And they could have done that with The Rock, for example, with a tattoo and not have had to shake the tree with that. But I still think that the women with the ability to fight the men, I think that was the one that probably dropped the axe. Duff Guy says, probably banned until he agrees to stop putting out my faction. And I don't think they need to worry about him agreeing. They're not going to sit back there and say, as soon as you agree, fuck him. They don't care. They don't give a fuck about him. They don't care about us. They prove that year after year after year. They don't listen to our complaints. I mean, the game comes out every year as broken as the year before, and a lot of it is the same shit that was broke the year before that they ended up fixing 4 or 5 patches later, and then they re-release it, or they release it the next year with all the bugs you fixed the year before. The one that immediately comes to mind is Hacksaw Jim Duggan's entrance. He comes out without a 2x4. Again. Last year, same thing, but then they fixed it. How many times last year did they do a patch where all of a sudden Hulk Hogan was completely bald and had no mustache? There was like 3 patches in a row where they had to do another patch to put the fucking mustache and hair back on him. It's like you didn't learn from the last 2? Hey, before this next patch goes out, make sure he's got his fucking hair and mustache, please. I'll say this, out of all the patches this year, he hasn't lost his hair and mustache yet, and that's the first thing I look for. TKO doesn't want intergender. WWE probably doesn't want intergender. But here's the thing, and this is a good argument that I agree with. Maybe not across the board, but Nia Jax was in a battle, Royal Rumble. China won the Intercontinental title. So I'm of the opinion that if they did it for real, you know, again, it's their game. They have a right to say, no, we're not doing that. But I'm just saying I can see an argument to be made. Yeah, I don't have last night. I don't think I have last night's rating. Let me see. Oh, I do have. Last night's overall, I don't have the quarter hours. Last night's overall for AEW Dynamite was 683,000, which is down from the week before where they had 762,000. So about 80,000 down. Apparently, Mercedes Moné is not popping the numbers the way they might have hoped. Okada's not popping the numbers the way they may have hoped. The CM Punk video didn't retain anybody, or better yet, it didn't build an audience for them. Tony Khan, man, he reminds me of the squirrel. If you ever see a squirrel in traffic, man, runs this way, sees the truck coming, runs that way, sees the truck coming, just like darts back and forth, and inevitably, if you'd have stayed straight where you are, the truck would have run over you and you'd have been fine. If you'd have run to the side of the street, you'd have been fine. But you do this dance back and forth, and then at the last second, you always run right under the tire. And you get squashed. That's Tony Khan. He's that fucking squirrel, man. That's why his eyes are always bugging out, man. He sees the truck coming, and oh my God, which way do I go? Which way do I go? Under the tire every time. Guy's got a talent for it, too. Never seen anyone quite as good at it as him. Yeah, Two Broke Girls probably does have that number, if not better. And that's their, one of their shows. I mean, we talk about the other shows, which have been around a minute now. You got Collision, which is relatively new. You got Rampage, though. That's one of their... Rampage pulling a 397,000. I mean, I keep saying it. When do they get to the point with TBS where they say, listen, we're just going to put Big Bang Theory on because they're pulling $1 million on a bad one? And I'll be the first to admit it. I will watch, like, when I get done with this, I'm going to want to eat something maybe and just chill out, but I don't want to get into a movie. I'm not going to do 2 hours or anything like that. First thing I do is let's see if Big Bang's on. And I've seen every episode at least 25 times. I don't care. I'll watch it again. Yep. And then Collision, which is the CM Punk show that doesn't have CM Punk, by the way. They pulled a 461. But they were first. They came on at 8 p.m. And then Rampage was at 10 p.m., so that's a lot of wrestling, especially when it's not good. Those are examples from when WWE wasn't under a parent company. I'm not following your logic. Nyla Rose will never get a shot in WWE. Well, that's an interesting thing because WWE doesn't currently have anyone on the roster that identifies as a woman, do they? And somehow I don't imagine. Well, never say never, right? I really feel like Triple H is more level-headed in the sense that, hey, it's our women's roster. And if we give you this spot, we are literally taking one away from some woman somewhere. TNT can air Bones reruns and Collision's time slot and get more. Again, all true, Alexander. All true. It's like back when CNN was trying to be really cute and Piers Morgan's would go on there. And he's like, you guys are acting like anyone's even watching you. The Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny reruns on Nick at Night are getting better numbers than you. And he wasn't joking. They were and still are. The only part, that's what Tony needs to do. They need to have one of those, what do you call those gatherings, like a Alcoholics Anonymous, but for people that just can't run a TV program. And have everybody just sitting around in a circle. And, hey, I'm Tony. Hey, Tony. Yeah, I'm a lousy producer. Oh, that's okay, Tony. Yeah, no, I used to get 1 million plus, and now I'm scratching around at 600 on a good day. And then CNN's like, hey, I'm CNN. I used to be a news network. We used to get that 2 to 3 million people. Now we're about 150,000 on a good day. Bugs Bunny's kicking our ass on a regular. And then Tony can tell him, it's like, well, your problem is this. You need to come in right after Big Bang Theory. Get some Big Bang Theory reruns leading up to your news. Kaylee Cuoco's going to make a friggin' fortune in residuals. Oh, Kevin Davis. No. I thought the first 3 seasons were just friggin' gold. And 4 and 5 and 6 were kind of okay to but by that time I had so much invested in the characters, I'm sticking around for the rest of the ride. It just, once I got to like season 7, there just wasn't much comedy left in the comedy. And God knows the last season was brutal. But I did like the last episode. I didn't laugh a whole lot at it. My all-time favorite single episode of that show was the robot arm, where, of course, Howard made a robot arm. And if you haven't seen that episode, you need to go check that out. That was freaking hilarious. And the other one I liked quite a bit was when Sheldon was having a dilemma whether he should be buying the Xbox or the PlayStation 4. So those are my 2 must-have. Those 2 episodes I have bought digitally. Andrew Roberts in the house. Just got off work. I'm just getting ready to get off of here. But thanks for being here. You can always go back and watch what you missed. Intergender storylines in WWE prior to 2K ownership. No, I get that, Duffy. I get what you're saying there. And like I mentioned in the other one, it's also a matter of the other game on the market does allow it. But the other game is as big a threat to 2K and the WWE game as the other company's program is to the WWE's TV programming. It's no threat. It's non-existent. So they don't have to worry about it, no. Yeah, if you have seasons 1 through 6, you definitely have the robot arm. I think that was season 2, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3. And anything with Kripke is just gold. That guy fucking cracks me up. When Raj was dating Siri, his phone, and Kripke walks into, oh, you guys see we? Yeah, worst voice recognition in the world, man. I don't believe you. No, she's very. Watch this. Siri, can you recommend a restaurant? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Recommend a restaurant. See, bitch is stupid. Hey, that's my girl you're talking about. Well, your girl was taking high-res pictures of my junk last night for Craigslist. Waiter losers. Like I said, I've watched these episodes too many times. Oh, yeah, Miracle. It's worth watching all of it all the way through. But then you'll go back and you'll rewatch probably seasons 1 through 5, I would say. Until the AEW game is actually good. It's not going to be good. And apparently they're working on a sequel. What happened to we're not going to be making sequels? We're just going to keep making this one better. I think somebody woke up and said, you can't make it better, man. It sucks. I mean, the fact that you still haven't put a steel cage match into it tells me that this is a death roll. And they keep on putting out, not keep on, but they put out, a Swerve Strickland, and 3 months later, a Keith Lee, and then 3 months later, a Samoa Joe. And they want how much? Shut up. You should be throwing that stuff for free at people so that they might actually pick up your shitty game again. Tony is so out of touch. No clue whatsoever, that boy. Oy. All right. Well, listen, folks, I want to say thank you for being here with me and keeping me company and doing our little chat stuff that we do here on the Nation Network. We're going to be back with some more of it. Normally, I would say goodbye, Jay, but we all know he ain't going to do it. So I will say it. Goodbye and good night. We'll see you soon right back here on the Nation Network. Actually watched a little bit of AEW, not a lot. Just enough to remind me why I don't watch it. Oh, this is already funny. Just the headline. The list of moves and actions that are now banned from AEW or need to be approved by the company.
Maybe that's why Nash is pissed off, because he went for Brock and Austin and not try to duplicate him.
Well, it'd be easier to duplicate him. You only have to learn 5 moves.
Like you said, and we've all been saying, Tony Khan, you need a hierarchy, and he gets one, and then we make fun of it.
Because he's sitting back there talking about the Brock match, and finally we had a wrestling match. Finally we got 2 guys telling a story. They weren't outside in the ring the whole time. One of them
Was he not watching the same match as we were?
Yeah, those games, man, I would say, like, for me, like, the best ones, I would say, are, like, the ones where they try to get a certain, like, time.
This is my entire IT team right here on screen.